Breaking Down the Law is sponsored by Battle-Born Injury Lawyers.
All right, if you were with us in our last block, then you just heard about the city of Las Vegas passing that new regulation regarding code enforcement for aging apartments and extended stay motels and hotels. Now, the changes come following, again, last year's deadly Alpine Motel fire that took 6 lives. The new regulations, among other things, call for landlords to fix code violations faster, stricter code enforcement, and penalties for non-compliance. So let's dig into the meat of all of this, the legal side. And here to discuss it, attorney Matt Hoffmann with Battle-Born Injury Lawyers. And Matt, you were listening in on this. So let's kind of go through again some of the biggest changes in the proposal that the city took on today.
Yeah, well, the biggest change is the categorization of what is a residential facility, or what comes under the purview of what an apartment complex is. So prior to this, extended stay motels were considered commercial, just like any other motel or hotel, despite the fact that people would have weekly, monthly, sometimes yearly leases. These people would live there for extended periods of time, but they were regulated just like they were a normal hotel. What this does now is it puts them under the purview of the housing authority and the city, so that they're treated just like apartment complexes. And it's not just extended stay motels, it also brings it down to fourplexes. So before this, an apartment would be somebody with, a property with 5 units or more. Now it's 4 units or more. And I was watching the meeting, and Carolyn Goodman, she made some very good points that you would get people that would get 1 or 2 acres of land and build all fourplexes so they could get around all these requirements. Well, that's gone now. And so what's going to happen with some of the new power is that if there's some kind of a habitability issue, so it's a heating or cooling, the city can come in and say, you got to fix this in 24 to 48 hours. And if you don't, we will fix it and we'll send you the bill. And so that's huge when you think of the Alpine fire. That was a heating issue, is that it was, residences were using their stoves and ovens to heat their dwellings because there wasn't good heating. So that's a huge issue. And just the fact that now there's going to be annual inspections, that they're going to do an annual audit. So they're going to keep track of how many police calls, fire calls, and city complaints there are to different properties. And then every year look at that, pick out the worst offenders, and then go in and closely monitor them and audit them. So a lot of big changes that I think will, at least theoretically, raise the habitability and the condition of some of these apartments and extended stay motels.
And hope, obviously, that will keep people safe and we don't
Yes.
see something like we did with the Alpine Motel fire where 6 people lost their lives. But let's talk about the other side of this. Do you see any potential drawbacks or unintended consequences of some of these new regulations?
Yeah, I do. I mean, again, everything here sounds really good. But, the reality is you're going to need more money for enforcement. Theoretically, some of that money could come from fines of the landlords. But that gets into the bigger issue, which is we're talking about housing for those who most need it, affordable housing, which is getting scarcer and scarcer in the valley. And if you have stricter enforcement and you have now a city, let's say they come in and do $20,000 worth of work to get something up to code, they send the bill to the landlord. The landlord could A, pay it and then raise the rent of everybody to make up for it. B, they could just close their doors or sell it to somebody else. So the concern is that all of this well-intentioned, all these things will help, in the short term, but long term, is it going to result in less affordable housing? And if that's the case, then it's, it poses a big problem. And so that's going to be the concern to watch out for going forward is, if you have too much enforcement, too strict of enforcement, you raise the cost, then you could have some of these places shut their doors or raise their rents, kind of define the purpose of the very people that need it most.
Well, Matt Hoffmann, definitely a relevant issue and one very timely, considering the decision just came down today and one we'll continue to follow. Thank you for just kind of helping us sort through it, all the legalities of all of this. So again, breaking down the law each and every Wednesday. We appreciate you.
All right, thanks for having me.